Have roll call, please.
Secretary Anderson.
Yep.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cremona.
Here.
Vice Chair Crisati.
Here.
Commissioner Dumond.
Here.
Commissioner Fiore is absent. Commissioner Ludwig.
Here.
Commissioner Nasuda.
Here.
Chair Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Price is absent. Commissioner Zanoni.
Here.
9 members present, 2 absent.
Thank you. The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Courant on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. The Town of Enfield Charter Revision Commission public hearing. The Enfield Charter Revision Commission will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall, Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Wednesday, March 26, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. to solicit public input on the proposed revisions to the Enfield Town Charter. This meeting will be streamed live to YouTube and it has the link. A copy of the proposed Enfield Town Charter is available in the town clerk's office for public inspection or at www.enfield/ct.gov. A copy of the proposed dated this 14th day of March 2025 by Sheila M. Bailey, Town Clerk. The ground rules for the public hearing are: each person must state their name and address for the record. Each person will be allowed to speak for up to 5 minutes. After each person who desires has had one chance to speak, I shall permit those individuals who desire a second chance to speak for up to 5 additional minutes. Please refrain from personalities. And first up, Tom Walsh.
Tom Walsh, Roseanne Street. I don't know, the one part of this that you guys worked on, it looks like you worked, this is the largest part, is this 7%. And then I think that it should go to referendum. Hell, I myself think it should go at 2, but anything above 2. But this is ridiculous. So if you get a group in the council that likes to spend money, all they got to do, in order to get guaranteed 7%, all you got to do is say, we're going to put a budget in front of the town at 8 or 9. If fails, you get 7. You know, that's ridiculous. My taxes are already high enough. I don't need a 7% increase. Hell, I don't need a 2% increase right now. But I think this should be scaled back to maybe 3 or 4. And you know, the other thing is, I can't believe that more people didn't come for this. I guess maybe they don't figure that people listen, but that's pretty much it. I just think that, you know, our taxes are high enough. They're going to get higher with all these apartments you're putting in. And I think maybe we should have a referendum at a little bit lower, because you basically guarantee 7%. Every budget, you can guarantee 7% by just saying, oh, either you give them 7%, or if you want to play politics, you can say, well, we'll go in at 8, and then it'll fail, and we get 7 anyways. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I think the 7% is too high.
Thank you, Tom. Next is Pam Townsend.
Hi, Pam Townsend, 54 Kimberly Drive. I have a poem that I would like to read. I am a retired Army veteran. I had the opportunity to read this poem in front of several hundred of my military brothers and sisters, and in the audience included the Sergeant Major of the Army and several retired Sergeant Majors of the Army. But before I read it, I would like to thank each one of you for your dedication in making our town a better place to live. Thank you. Now, I will say I was disappointed that there was no consensus on a flag policy. For me, it's pretty easy. The flag of the United States represents everyone. If you disagree, then I suggest that you visit a veteran's home, a veteran medical center, or any veteran's cemetery, then come back and talk. Flying the prisoner of war missing in action flag honors our POW and MIA and tells their families we have not forgotten them. Our military service flags fly to thank all our military and veterans for their service. Our state flag represents all those living in Connecticut, and our town flag, if we choose to fly it, represents a community of diversity, a community with an amazing future despite all our challenges. These are the only flags that should fly 24/7 on government flagpoles and government buildings. And for those who disagree with me, please keep in mind that not only did I give you that right, but so did thousands of men and women that serve and have served in our military. And if you really feel the need to support an organization, a cause, a person, you can do this and display your support on your private property, just like I do. So here's the poem. It's called Old Glory, and it was written by a combat veteran, U.S. Marine Corps, Howard Schonberg. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I stand guard majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped, I am loved, and I am feared. I have fought in every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, Guam, Okinawa, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, in the Persian Gulf, and a score of places long forgotten by all but those who were there with me. I was there. I led my soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I followed them and watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill in Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired. My Marines and sailors cheered me, and I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped set free. Does not hurt, for I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country. And when it is by those I have served in battle with, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the uncharted new frontiers of space. I have been silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hour comes when I am torn in strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle. When I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers, my airmen, my sailors, my Marines, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the graveside of her fallen son or daughter. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave. Dear God, long may I wave. The words in this poem are the reason why Enfield must adopt, for the charter, the flag policy that I presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. George Young.
Good evening, George Young, 8 Holly Lane. I applaud the committee for its hard work and diligence in drafting changes to the charter over the past few months. A couple of early comments before I get into the documents. I'd like to know if the committee member, a Democrat who left abruptly, resigned, and if so, why there was no mention that I heard during any meeting to replace him. On the Republican side, the committee member, who through no fault of his own was unable to continue, was replaced almost immediately. I doubt any changes to the document would be different. It seems that all prior referendums that were put forth in prior years were approved. The closest vote for approval was November 6, 1996, when it was a separation of only 78 votes, 61-94 to 61-16 against. I doubt that when this goes to referendum, it would not be approved. I'll try to give my comments by chapter and section within the chapter where possible. In Chapter 3, the Town Council, Section 3, Town Clerk, on page 5 at the top, the addition of the word organizational was inserted. Why would we not have changed the year that was written after November to a current year? Chapter 3, the Town Council, Section 9, relation to administrative services on page 7 in the last sentence. Any counselors violating the provisions of this section, and I quote, shall be removed from office by unanimous vote of the town council members seated and present, excluding the subject members, end of quote. If formally read, upon a finding thereof by a court of competent jurisdiction, shall cease to be a counselor. It seems to mean guilty without a fair hearing and would favor the party in charge. I have the same reaction to the new Section 12, removal from office. Chapter 3, the Town Council, Section 12, removal from office, page 8. This is a completely new paragraph, the beginning that, quote, any town council members who violates the provisions of this charter, etc., end of quote. I believe that this is also guilty without a fair hearing. It would once again favor the party in charge. There's also some redundancy of the two sections when one says violation of the section and the other says violation of the charter. I believe there needs to be some clarity here. Chapter 6, Finance and Taxation, Section 4, Duties of the Council on the Budget, page 17. The document still says the council shall cause to be published electronically or as required by law and in a newspaper having circulation in town. I thought the commission eliminated the requirement for publication in a newspaper in Section 6, so why not here? The town could possibly save money and time by eliminating that requirement. In a subsequent sentence, a new portion has been added that when the town council adopts the budget, and I quote, that does not exceed the current fiscal year's general fund expenditures by an amount greater than 7%, it shall also fix the mill rate tax. From my recollection, the increase barely has ever been over 5%, so why would we give future councils over the next 10 years the ability to use 7% when the public vetoes their proposal to raise expenditures by 8%? I believe it should be reduced to 6% to keep the council in line with the taxpayer wishes and let them revise the budget accordingly. And my last thing is on Chapter 6, Finance and Taxation, Section 8, Referendum on Capital Expenditures. I realize that my suggestion to reduce the amount the council can spend without approval by referendum on capital expenditure projects did not get passed. Even though I felt it did not get much discussion by the commission, I still feel that changing the wording of how much the council can approve should be set to the net grand list, not the current grand list, which would limit the council's approval by approximately $100,000 less per capital project. There can be many capital projects occurring during the year. Remember, emergency capital projects can still be done without referendum. Thanks for the time that each of you has spent on this commission. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Next up is Kelly Hemler.
A friend of mine emailed me and asked me to read her letter because she couldn't be here. Her name is Pamela Pasha. She lives at 8 Weymouth Road. To the Charter Revision Committee, I am unable to come to the Charter Revision public hearing. I've been watching some of the committee meetings on YouTube. The flag policy was a tie vote, so it was not added to the proposed charter revisions. I feel very strongly that the Enfield Charter should specify that only the American flag and military flags should be on town property. The American flag is for all Enfield citizens, and military flags represent the people who have fought for our freedoms that we enjoy today. There is also a proposal to make a automatic referendum if the town council proposes an annual budget over 7%. I like the idea, but the percentage is too high. Maybe half, so it would be 3.5% or 4% increase. Then it goes to a vote. I understand that sometimes there is a need to increase the budget, but as an infield homeowner of over 33 years, I want the opportunity to voice my opinion if the increase is too high. Thank you for the opportunity to offer my thoughts and proposed charter revisions. Pamela Pasha. And then I just have a couple thoughts. First of all, you guys did a great job. I saw all the meetings except for the first one, attended a few of them, and you all put a lot of work into it. You were all very serious and thoughtful, and you should be appreciated. And also, we're very lucky to have Sheila as our town clerk. I was very impressed. So on page 17 is about the referendum. I like the idea as well, but 7% is crazy, way too high. I think that 3%, 3.5%, 4%, it makes more sense. Otherwise, like what George said, they could just bring it right to 7%, and then there's nothing you can do about it. I was disappointed that the flag policy was a 5-5 vote, and it failed. I believe that the American flag should be the American flag covers everyone, and the military flags is because they fought for our freedoms, so those should be the only flags. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Chris Lang?
Hi, this is Chris Lang, 90 South Road. I can echo a lot of things I've already heard. Having sat through, I think it's every single revision commission meeting, I have learned to respect again and again the hard work of committees. And I've been on a few in my life, but boy, you really have a tough job there. So thanks to every member of that, and yes, thanks to Sheila. I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. I was going to mention the flag ordinance only if it came up. It came up. I would say one of the most important moments was watching the deliberation of this commission, which was really deep, thoughtful. The fact that there was a roll call vote and a 5-5 split proves of all the things you discussed that it got a lot of good attention. I appreciate you for doing that. My only comment on that is that resolutions are part of the town council's game, and every time we have a new majority, each majority has the right to do its resolutions. They change often whenever a new majority of a party might come in. That's the appropriate way to do these things, because you can change them when the will of the community is changing. That's the wind of change. You don't put something that is resolution material into a charter which is cemented for 10 years. That's an inappropriate place. So that's all I have to say about it. It's not specific about any particular flag, but I thought that was a good piece of work. George covered a lot of my things about Chapter 3, Section 3, the number 1969 being there, and so forth. In Chapter 3, Section 12, that new paragraph, I assume that is assuming there's a quorum for you to hold a vote of anyone seated at that point, because it wouldn't make much sense if there are only 4 of you up there and you're going to vote someone out without a quorum. So I would assume that assumes you have quorum to do that, and that new Section 12. Last but not least, the idea of a referendum when you have a budget that comes to 7%. That was one I finally ended up agreeing with being there at 7%. Only thing I think you need to do is put some money and time into educating us, the voters, well in advance as to why you have a budget the way it is. Right now, the base in this town is putting a lot of the burden on homeowners because you don't have a growing commercial section. People don't always understand why numbers go up, taxes on them go up, when it's really a seesaw. And your attention, the public attention, should be on those facts well before they're asked to vote on something that you had to do the work with. You're asking the public to think out this complicated mess without enough information. That's all I'm saying. So give them the information on how to think about it before you throw a referendum at the public on something that important. And thank you very much for the chance to speak. Bye.
Thank you very much, Chris. Okay. Anyone else for the first time? Sir.
I am John Caton. I live at 62 Brainerd Road, apartment 7A. First off, I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and all you distinguished town officers. I think, concerning the budget, I think 7% is way too high for the good citizens of Enfield, Connecticut. I really do, for our citizens here. I think I'm for more like a 4 or even a 3%. And the only other thing I have to say is concerning the buildings, flying the flags, American flag because we're all Americans, I just think that's self-explanatory. And concerning, excuse me, concerning the military flag, yes, absolutely. I had my best friend in high school, so our frontline duty is a sergeant, and he passed on tragically about 5 or 6 years ago. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else for the first time? Ma'am?
I'm Marjorie Gandassi, Fruit Terrace, Enfield. I agree with the increase in the budget to be kept at more like 3% instead of 7% for a referendum. I agree with that. And then I just had some commentary on some of the other things. One was the vacancy being filled by a member of the same party that's leaving. And I guess the only objection I have is I know you want to pick from your own party, but I think it should be qualifications instead of, and maybe that's naive, but I hope we'd get away from that. And then, let's see. This is on section 6, public hearing on publication of ordinances, where you're putting out a summary of what the ordinance is. And if you want a copy, you have to go to the town clerk. I would suggest that you put that on the town site in its entirety, so somebody doesn't have to go to the town clerk to get that. And then this is in relation to administrative service. Any counselor violating provisions can be removed. I kind of like having a court in there so it doesn't become political and not just members of the council that make that decision. And sorry, I wasn't as organized as everybody else. I thought I was organized by highlighting what I wanted to question.
No, you're doing
Everybody
fine.
else was like,
You're doing
"Whew."
fine.
They had it all there. And then there was one preference for Enfield residents to be considered for a position. I don't know about that either. I guess, again, I'd go back to qualifications of the person applying for the job and not step up because where they live, or I think that might be it. Okay, I think that's it.
Just point of clarification, when you had said you could go to the town clerk to get it, you wanted it put online, are you talking about the red line version of the charter?
I'm talking about the ordinance, not the charter itself. I'm talking about, like, if there's a change to an ordinance, you're saying it would be published, and it would be summarized of what that ordinance was.
Okay.
And so if someone wanted more detail, they had to go to the town clerk to get the copy. I'm just saying, post it on the site. If somebody wants to go get it, they can go get it.
Right.
Don't make
Okay.
it hard.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else for the first time?
Hi, Christina Tatro, Green Manor Road. I just wanted to also talk about the referendum percentage. I think that you guys did a lot of work. I watched it, I listened to it. I think that 7% was a great idea. I think if you lower it to 2 or 3%, it's going to cause the registrars to be doing a lot more work. It's going to cost a lot more money that we're not currently budgeting for, and it's going to make me personally reconsider the position. I was told that I'd be getting into 2 or 3 elections a year max. If we're putting referendums into it, how many referendums should we be budgeting for? Each of these referendums costs about $20,000. I just want you to keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
For clarification, are you speaking for the Register of Voters, or are you speaking for yourself?
I am speaking as the Registrar of Voters.
One of.
One of the Registrar of
Right.
Voters.
You're not speaking for the office then?
Correct. I am
Okay.
not speaking for the office. I am
Okay,
speaking for
thank you.
myself.
Thank you. Anyone else for the first time? Anyone for the second time? I think everybody said what they wanted. Nobody? Okay, at this point, I'd like to call the public hearing tonight to an end, to a close. I thank everyone very much for coming out tonight. We will be meeting tomorrow as a committee. It is recorded. So to discuss everything that we heard tonight, and then I believe that's when the committee makes a decision on sending it forward to the town council. So please chime in tomorrow night, and you'll hear your concerns. And I think everybody was listening. If we were looking down, we were all taking notes, so we have them for tomorrow night. But I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to come and speak their mind and let us know what they think about the work the committee did. And I want to thank the committee for all the time that you've volunteered and helped us get to the point where we are today. So everybody have a great night. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay.